Okay, welcome to Mountain Mamas. This session is going to be on cold emergencies. We're going to start first with hypothermia. We thought beginning of the year, it's winter time. Everyone's thinking about this. We don't want anyone to get hypothermic. And this is also a really good thing for all our guides and assistant guides to know how to keep their eyes open and, you know, keep this from happening to people. So first off, there's 3 stages for hypothermia. You've got mild, moderate, and severe. So with mild hypothermia, you're gonna just start noticing people shivering. They'll just have that. Marilyn does this all the time. She gets so cold so quickly. And then there's something else. Second thing is called the umbles. What this means is fumbling, like they can't hold on to things. Mumbling, like they're not speaking well. They're grumbling, which means they're not really thinking right. And then they're stumbling. Does that make sense? So those 4 umbles. So essentially they're getting so cold, they're just not thinking, doing, like they just seem a little bit off, if that makes sense. Now that's when we want to catch things and start warming people up. If this progresses to moderate, they'll start becoming shivering so much they can't stop. So that's when you're on level 2, moderate. Shivering so bad you can't stop. And then the umbles increase. They get more and more confused, less coordinated. It just gets really bad. So in those 2 situations, the way we're going to treat people is first, get them out of their cold, wet, especially if it's wet, cold, wet clothing. A big thing we've learned in our wilderness first responder course is to use what they have first before you use your stuff. So that's what you're going to want to do. If they've got extra clothing or whatever, we want to get them into warm, dry clothing or whatever other spare stuff we might have on board. And then we want to get them away from the cold, the wind, get them to a sheltered place. We want to cover their head and their neck and get that part. We lose so much heat here. So get an extra hat on, get a throat gaiter if you have those, or anything to protect the neck. And then we want to get them warmed up. So that's what I love to have, like little thermoses, and water is really good, but water that's sugary with simple carbohydrates is even better. So a hot cocoa drink or any kind of sugary drink, hot teas and stuff like that with sugar in it. And you get them to drink that nice and slowly. That helps warm up the core. We all had that happen and want to warm up. That's a really good way to warm up our core. And then if they're able to move, we want to keep them moving as well, whether it's just in place, but your body can create a little bit of heat on its own. But when you're moving, it bumps it up like by 15% or something. Aaron would remember from our class. But anyway, it really, really increases up your metabolism if you can start moving. If that's not possible, then you want to insulate them from the ground. Obviously, having someone sit on cold snow while it's seeping through their, ski pants is not good. So if you've got a backpack they can sit on, or like a little sleeping pad or something like that, that's ideal. They can snuggle with warm people. This is actually out of the book, the little guidebook that we use. So you can get a whole bunch of people and get all warm and close together, and that can really help warm somebody up. And then my favorite by far is if the warm drink and all that kind of stuff doesn't help, then I like to get, and you're at some place where you can heat up water, we like to boil water, put it in one of these the Nalgene bottles, and then put grab that, your handy dandy wool sock that you brought an extra of. And I just put that on top. Make sure your bottle's nice and tightly screwed. And then having this especially is helpful if somebody is going to be spending the night. So you get these full of hot water, and then you put them on the chest for your hands, in the armpit, like up here, the groin area, down by the feet, all that kind of stuff. It's a great place to, you're just thinking, we want to warm up extremities, fingers, toes, and then warm up arteries. The big arteries for your upper body are the brachials, and then for your arms, and then for your lower extremities, your femorals, right in that groin area. So I'm either having a hot water bottle there or little hand heat packs, and you just, it's a great way to get somebody warmed up again. I also recommend if you're having cold extremity, like they just have cold fingers or something, or cold toes. We've totally like warming a cold extremity on warm skin really helps. So sometimes I will just put my cold hands down my pants so they can be warmed up on that femoral artery, and that cold skin on the warm helps them warm up really, really fast. If you have a friend, we've done situations where someone's cold toes were just so bad that we just took their shoes and socks and got them down to skin and put it under like our armpit of your friend, you know, and that's against your friend's skin. So that's cold skin on warm skin. That can warm things up if you don't have any other cool stuff, heat packs or anything nearby. And it works. It takes some time and you really bond, but it's a possibility. So that's how to help moderate and mild hypothermia. Now, severe hypothermia comes when we get past the shivering stage. So someone's been shivering, and all of a sudden they stop, and we haven't, you know, it wasn't from something we've done. Like, it's obviously that they're getting colder. And you'll notice their muscles will get rigid and more tight. And then they really are slipping in and out of conscious. They may go totally unconscious or just semi-conscious. Their breathing slows, their heart rate slows, almost to the point where it's not even detectable. So this would be someone who collapses, or you find them in their tent, and they're unconscious and they're cold and it doesn't look like they're breathing, things like that. Something to note is to not super freak out, because somebody is not considered, this is going to be sad, but someone is not considered dead unless they're cold, unless they're warm and dead. A cold, dead person is not considered dead. So it's because when we get cold and our bodies just start to shut down, they could still be breathing, they could still have a pulse, but it's so barely detectable because they're just so cold. So we can't, you know, we're still going to try and help somebody who is cold and looks like, you know, that they've passed away. So this is kind of in the severe section, but it's good to kind of just have logged away. So the way to treat somebody like this is we're going to handle them very gently. Their body has frozen, and we don't know how bad that frostbite or whatever has affected all the cells in their body, what cells, all that kind of stuff. If you're roughing and moving somebody around, those cells are getting shredded and torn. This could include the heart, the lungs, things like that. So you want to treat them very gently. And then the first thing before you do anything really more invasive than that is do rescue breathing for 5 to 15 minutes. So you're just going to sit there, tilt up the head, the chin, and plug the nose and do the breathing, you know, every 2 seconds or so, you know, nice and slow, just your regular breaths. And do that for 5 to 15 minutes. We just want to get oxygen into their body. We're not going to do CPR. This is the one. There's a couple times that you do not do CPR, and a hypothermic person is one of those things. Like if they're unconscious, we do not pump on their heart, because their heart is in such a fragile state that if we start doing CPR on a frozen person, they will die. So all we're going to be doing is rescue breathing on somebody who is so far cold. And then we are going to do what I love to call, what is called the hypothermia wrap. So we've got this cold person, we breathe for them, and now we're going to gently do a hypothermic wrap. All right, so I volunteer for this. I'm going to move this down. We also have another volunteer. Okay, all right. So, okay. So the first thing you're going to want to have is a tarp or a tent fly, something like that that's non-breathable, waterproof. Then you want to have sleeping pads, sleeping bags, or something insulating to be on warm. And then you want to have your water bottles. So get those things all, you can be helping other people get stuff going. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is lay out the tarp. Essentially, we're going to make a little burrito out of this. Okay, and we want to have it in a diagonal. I'd say that'll be fine. Put it into a diagonal shape. Okay. And smooth that out that way. Okay. Then we're going to take our sleeping pads and put them here. So it's like a diamond, and we're putting this right in the middle from one point to another point. And if you've got a couple pads, that's great. We'd inflate this pad. All right. And then we get our awesome sleeping bag. The warmest one we can find. And we're gonna open it all the way as far as we can. And this is when we're gonna use that. We're gonna use the technique we learned earlier. It's called the beam lift, where you get a handful of people, maybe 4 to 6 people, and you put your arms under the person to your elbows, and everybody does that. And then at the same time, you all lift. So that's what we would do. We'd take them from their frozen position, and we would lift them and gently get them into the sleeping bag. So let's pretend we did that. And I'm lifting this person. All right, good. All right, if you can kind of see. So here's our cold person, and he's in our sleeping bag. We're gonna, now before we start doing anything else, we wanna get our warm bottles. And you wanna put one, there's a good order to do that, especially if you are limited in your water bottles. Biggest priority is the hands. You know, they may not be able to hold it, but you want to have it in the hands over the heart. That's your #1 place. Second place, in the armpits, in that brachial artery area. And then the third is in the groin, down here. So those are your 3 critical places. If you've got extra water bottles, you can put some down by the feet too. All right, so we get all those water bottles in. All right. We zip up our sleeping bag. Get him all cozy. I put him in upside down, so pretend like it goes around his head. You take a second sleeping bag and unzip it. Put this on top. And in this situation, we'd probably get another parka or something else to warm up around his head. So it's all warm and cozy here. And then we're just gonna wrap him up like a burrito. So. All right. The idea being that the only thing that's visible would be his nose and mouth, actually, even. So we would cover up his forehead a little bit more. How does that feel?
Hey, cozy.
Are you cozy down there?
Yep.
All right. So that's how you do a hypothermia wrap. All right, you can get out now.
Yeah.
Ah, he's stuck. All right. So that's something simple, especially if you're spending the night somewhere, that you can use just with the stuff that you've got around. If you're not doing a sleepover, then you just do whatever you can. You find whatever waterproof stuff you're going to use as the outside layer. Any insulating like backpacks, you can lay them on a black backpack. Anything insulating, if you have any extra insulating clothing, you just wrap that around them, and then you just wrap them in whatever is waterproof. So that's the hypothermic wrap. It can really help somebody. It can help save a life, especially if you've called 911 or, you know, you've got people that are coming, search and rescue or whoever, but they're like 4 hours away before they get to you, or a day. You know, this is a good thing that you can just keep somebody in this situation stable for a while till you get help. If you have to move somebody and do an evacuation, like put them on a litter, like, you know, something that you're carrying, you're transporting them out in the situation, you just want to be so gentle, so gentle. If it looks like you're not able to gently get them out, then you might want to just wait for help to come to you. It might be safer that way. Also, in addition, with this unconscious person, you would obviously not be trying to feed them food or get hot water into them, drinking it. My rule of thumb as a nurse is if somebody can't look at you and understand you, do not feed them or give them water, because they'll aspirate and it creates a zillion other problems. So that is basic hypothermia. Now, the ways we prevent this, that's like the bad side. The ways we can keep this from happening is obviously as guides and as friends, we're watching the people around us. We're making sure that we're watching for shivering. We're watching for just all those signs. But the way to prevent it is to make sure that we are not wearing cotton. Please just don't do that, especially in the winter time. This could be cotton underwear. This could be cotton socks. Watch for things like that you wouldn't think that would be a cotton, but try not to have any cotton whatsoever. Then we also have layers. Instead of having a t-shirt and a parka, we're going to have multiple layers so that when we start exercising and start feeling like we're sweating, we can take off layers. Sweating is a very dangerous thing when you're in the mountains in the wintertime. So we had a whole other thing about layering, so you can check that out. Also, we want to keep hydrating people. Making sure people keep drinking. When you're cold, people just don't like to drink as much. So focus on that. Also focus on eating snacks. We want to eat simple carbohydrates as we're exercising as well. That helps keep your body's fuel going. And then keep a nice steady pace. You don't want to be pushing people too hard. Like when we do snowshoeing trips this year, we're going to want to keep people nice at a pace that's a little slower than they want. You know, enough to be warm, but not so hard that they're going to be sweating. That's so important. So a nice steady pace. Do rest breaks. I don't like to do my breaks. I don't like to do longer than like 5 to 7 minutes because people start to freeze. But yeah, just kind of keep it a nice steady pace. So that's a good way to prevent hypothermia. Now, frostbite, I don't know how many of you guys have had frostbite, but it's no fun. Marilyn mentioned that she'd had frostbite. I haven't got it yet, but who knows? I'm still young. There's 2 kinds of frostbite. There's a partial frostbite and a full thickness frostbite. This has to do with the depth of skin that you're having. So for a partial frostbite, it's soft. Your skin is soft, pale, and numb. So you've got a pale, numb skin, but it's soft. That's how you know you're just in the top part. It's superficial. The way to treat that is you're going to cover with warm body parts like we talked about, or other people's warm body parts, with their consent, of course. You don't want to rub it if it looks like it's actually frostbitten. You know, something that's getting a little cold is okay, but if you start to know it's pale and numb, like once things become numb, we don't want to do a lot of vigorous rubbing. We also don't want to apply heat directly to numb extremities or anything numb, because you're going to get burned. Your body doesn't know when things are too hot. So we want to watch out for that. You want to take some ibuprofen if you have it, because frostbite can hurt like the mother, especially when things are rewarming. And if somebody, we also want to hydrate somebody, encourage fluids. And then after they've rewarmed, if they start to blister, you want to make sure they go see the doctor for that, because that's more of a severe kind of frostbite. For full thickness, if you got somebody who's got the same symptoms, pale, numb extremities, but that's hard, that skin is hard. I can't explain it, but if you see videos from Everest or anything like that, you'll see what the difference is. That is a full thickness frostbite, and that's a lot more serious. This is when we worry about whether something should be refrozen or keep it frozen, that kind of stuff. So if there's a chance that after we warm something up, it's going to freeze again, meaning we are doing an overnight camping somewhere, or you're away a distance before you get to help, or we're going to warm it and then have to hike out, another, whatever, 5-10 miles or whatever. And we're going to freeze. There's a chance they could refreeze. Then you do not want to rewarm anything. Make them walk out. They've got frostbitten feet. People can walk on frostbitten feet. That's totally fine. If it's really full thickness, you know, that's the best way to get someone out. If there's a chance that they're not going to refreeze, we're close for help. We can get them warmed up and we know they're going to be able to stay warm. Then you want to do a rapid rewarming of hot water, 104 to 108 degrees. I don't know how you're going to be able to tell that temperature, but you know, we're just thinking like a hot water, not like steaming hot bath, but like warm, hottish water. But you want to keep that extremity warm in water for 30 to 40 minutes. Air on the longer side, it's better for it to kind of stay there a little longer in that hot, warm, you know, hottish water. And then dry it off. If it's on the foot, put cotton in between, or the fingers, you know, put cotton in between. Just to kind of protect things from sticking together. And then it's going to be very, very painful. So we want to give them medication. All we're going to provide is ibuprofen or aspirin. Honestly, aspirin is the better medication in this situation. It actually helps to prevent more damage. So if you have, you know, that option, that aspirin's preferred, then we want to get them hydrated and as much fluid as possible. And then make sure that they go see the doctor, of course, on that one. So the ways we can prevent frostbite is the same thing. We want to avoid tight clothing, like around your wrists or your ankles. That could cut off circulation. We want to keep that circulation going in our hands. We want to have insulated boots and mittens. Mittens is actually better than gloves. If you have a tendency, I know some of our gals have just really poor circulation. So yeah, make sure mittens are actually better. Throw a couple heat packs in there. Same with your boots, throw a couple heat pads. My favorite is just to open those ones, just the regular cheap ones, when I get in the car, because they don't start warming for like a half hour, an hour. So put them in, and then hopefully by the time you hit the trail, they'll be warmed up. Another one is to protect your skin from the wind. So try and have as much of your body protected as possible. Have the neck gaiters, you know, goggles if you have them, or things like that. You just want to keep all your skin protected. Try not to have any contact with cold metal. This would be something like your bare hand on an ice axe, or your bare hands holding onto a camping stove or something like that. That metal just sucks the heat right out of your hands, and you can get frostbite super fast. And then of course, having wet socks, we don't want to have that. So we want to make sure you're changing, especially if you're doing something for multiple days, you want to switch out your socks every day, not sleeping at night in wet socks from that day, that kind of thing. So those are some tips and tricks. And hopefully we're going to be able to keep our ladies warm and snuggly and have no incidences for this season. Any questions that you ladies might have or comments? I can't see any of you. So if you have a comment, maybe unmute yourself. Or let me see a picture that you've got a thumbs up and we know we're good. Everyone else okay? Good. Oh, your brains are all full. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us for hypothermia. And we want to let you know that our lead guides have now all officially been trained as wilderness first responders. So that's myself, Marilyn Boucher, Erin Pine, and Charlene Evans. So we're going to be training with these first aid courses with also information we've learned from our wilderness first responders. So hopefully that'll give you a couple more fun, cool tips that you'll have in your brains too. And we're a little bit more educated. So fantastic, signing off, and we'll see you ladies in a little bit for the second half.